of the use of forms and the proper use of forms and which forms to use as it relates to finance and the financial aspect of uh, agency payments and such. We wanted to provide the following presentation to hopefully further provide clarification and answer those questions and calls and emails that we received uh, over the past year. This information's been gathered from the gift the gift records manager, the director of administration and finance, the director of field services, and the various regional athletic directors and directors of development, the regional directors of development. We want to thank all of the agency managers, the treasurers, all of those volunteers that take the time to review, understand, ask those questions, and work to better and fully understand what is required to make the agency and Special Olympics Wisconsin the most successful it can be. So what we're going to do is talk about the use of the correct forms for agency finances and what forms to use when. It's going to be a hopefully short presentation, but hopefully provide the clarification that you asked for and need going forward. First one we're going to talk a little bit about is sales tax reporting form. All right. The Special Olympics Wisconsin is a tax-exempt organization, but the thing to remember is we are not exempt from collecting sales tax. This means that we, meaning Special Olympics Wisconsin and agencies associated to that, must report sales tax on the sales of taxable items and submit these to the Department of Revenue each month for the previous month. Items such as t-shirts, wreaths, buttons, concessions, souvenirs, live or silent auctions items you're selling there. And some of the key things that agencies forget is number 2, the admissions or participation or registration fees. If you're charging the athletes to offset the cost for a banquet, and though the banquet may be $25, but you're charging them $5, that's a taxable amount. All right. Any fees that we charge for carnival games and similar activities are all taxable. So please consider that moving forward and remembering that as we go forward. So how to figure the sales tax. If you participate in the noted activities from the previous slide, when you figure out the sales tax or help figure out the sales tax, make sure you mark up the items enough to still make a profit after applying the sales tax. Right? So if you have a certain amount that you need to make on each item, make sure that you add on that portion that will cover the sales tax for that, and so you can maintain that profit. When selling, you must disclose to the buyers that a sales tax is included in the price. This is a Department of Revenue rule. This is not a Special Olympics Wisconsin rule. This is a Department of Revenue rule. And this also must be disclosed on brochures and price signs, etc. Right? And sales tax items must be reported the month that they're sold or charged using the sales tax summary form. All right, and we'll show that and discuss that in just a minute. So if you participate in the sales tax activities listed above, you need to do the following. You must complete the deposit ticket. So you mark the checkbox stating that there are taxable items included in your deposit. Right? Then complete the sales tax summary form and include that with your deposit. Right? This is on page 8 in the forms of duplication. The sales tax reporting form is outlined there, and you can utilize that form, make a copy, and send that with that. All right? The amounts on this form must match the taxable money you are depositing. And also, deposit taxable items must be submitted in the month they are being sold or charged. Now, remember that if it's the last day of the month, you must submit these by the next day, as Special Olympics Wisconsin must report the sales tax to the Department of Revenue at month end. All right, so it must be turned, unfortunately, in that one day. So when you're planning an event and you're going to utilize and sales taxes provided to that, take that in consideration when scheduling the event, so you don't run into the tight turnaround associated with that. Right, so you can see, as noted, it's on the Forms of Duplication, page 8, the sales tax reporting form, and it outlines it's a fairly simple document. Again, the date of the sales, who's submitting it, what is the event name, what county it was involved in, and then any kind of general comments. So when you go into the items of description, t-shirts, buttons, or fees, bowling fees, or we had a banquet, or fees associated to registration. We're charging athletes to go to the state games. They pay $8, let's say. That is taxable amount. Sales tax category, you just kind of listen it's for admissions or concessions or something like that, state games fees, the unit price, so the cost per the number involved, and so the total cost. And then the individual then signs it, and it is included with the forms of deposit. The key is, if you've got questions or anything like that, feel free to call us with those questions, either the Director of Field Services, Mark Wolfgram, or the Gift Records Manager, Teresa Rossman, and we're real happy to help. Where it creates a little bit of issue is when we receive these and there's tax associated with it and the forms aren't sent with that, then all of the deposits are on hold until we get the proper paperwork in order to process that information. And again, it's required, and it's required by the Department of Revenue. It's not something that Special Olympics Wisconsin, it's not our rule, it's Department of Revenue's rule. Right, now, onto the invoice approval form. All right, so the invoice approval form is a form that, one, you must make sure and understand is an allowable expense, and we'll talk about that a little bit in a few minutes. All right, what you want to do is contact the vendor. Can we set up a direct billing? If so, get the information, fill out the credit application, or if the credit application needs to be filled out, you can either scan it and email it or fax it to the accounts payable department. We will complete that and send it back directly to the vendor for that. Now, once the direct billing has been established, you can then make the purchase. You cannot make the purchase ahead of time and then ask us to do the direct bill. It doesn't work that way. So you've got to do one first. You have to set up the direct bill first, if that's how you want to process or proceed with that program, and then purchase the item. So that's something to take into consideration moving forward. When you make a purchase, you need to send the bill or the invoice directly to the Special Olympics Wisconsin headquarters office, and you can see the address enclosed. Special Olympics Wisconsin, attention accounts payable, 2310 Crossroads Drive, Suite 1000 in Madison, 53718. Right, to fill out this invoice form, this must be filled out completely, right? Must be filled out completely. What this is upon receiving both the completed invoice form and the invoice, all right? And I'll show you what the invoice approval form looks like in just a minute to kind of jog some memories. Once that's filled out and with the invoice, accounts payable will pay the invoice. We will send that directly to them. But we need that invoice approval form and done completely in order to process. Invoices are paid every Wednesday. So for an invoice to be paid on a Wednesday, it needs to be done by business day Monday to get into our system. Please remember there's 160 plus agencies throughout the state, and if everyone has invoices, direct deposits that need to be paid, there's a little process, a little time dedicated to that. So, and then they are mailed out on Wednesday, so they're signing and all of that. So please remember that. Do not send it on Tuesday afternoon expecting to be paid on Wednesday. It would be paid the following Wednesday based on this procedure. All right, monthly financial statements will be available on the agency login page, our reference to what we would call the back end of the SOWI website. These statements will be available on or before the 10th day of the following month, right? For example, January's reports will be posted on or before February 10th. These reports will show all expenses and revenues for the month, right? If you have any questions, you can certainly contact the Director of Field Services or the Accounts Payables Department, and we will certainly process. So you can see here, here's the invoice approval form. Now, please remember, as you see in red, for vendor/business payments only, right? So the key is the name of the payee, Mike's Tents, amount $345. Agency number, you must have an agency number so we know where to pull the funds from. We also do know that there are a few programs that have one central county agency that pays for the funds of multiple programs. We understand that. So example is Waukesha County. That would be in 8-99. So understanding where the funds are being pulled from is critical in that process and must be completed. And the agency manager approval signature, we need this from the agency manager and or treasurer, an approved Class A individual, so we know it has been done correctly and processed. Purchase or purpose, what is the specific reason for that? Need a tent for bocce tournament, understanding that, writing that down. Expense code, and that's an allowable or reference to an allowable expense for that. So the second signature, the witness approval form, must be signed and must be completed, and it cannot be a family member, but it must be another Class A volunteer. So a treasurer and an agency manager, treasurer and or an agency manager, co-agency manager, but two individuals that are not related for signatures, and there must be two of them. A date to be paid by, if they don't need it for 2 months, put that in there. It all depends upon, the requirements there. And then the date, the purchase of the item. So the key is the expense code, having that completed, the agency number, the amount, and again, if there's any questions regarding that, feel free to contact the accounts payable department. So as it relates, what is an allowable expense for an agency? All right. Again, this is detailed or outlined in your agency management handbook, or you can do that, or you can go on the SOWI website under agency manager. It's detailed in there under the finance tab, or on the back end under agency management handbook, again, the finance tab for that. What's an allowable expense? Well, there's some stuff that, from first aid, medical supplies, and uniforms, and administrative costs for postage and paper when you send out notifications, and that type of thing, essentially running of an agency for that. A bus rental to get to competition or to an event. Gift cards for reasonable amount to show volunteer appreciation. Now, this is not the purchase of 500 movie tickets to be auctioned off or given to all family members. That becomes an excessive allowable expense. And then again, if you have any questions, feel free to contact us and we can provide further clarification. Now, some things that are non-allowable, as you can see, cash donations, memorials, or gifts. Some of this is the unfortunate thing is if you have a volunteer that has passed from, I'm going to use the example of cancer, you cannot use agency funds to provide a donation to the Cancer Society. This is a non-allowable expense. So just kind of checking there. Gasoline purchases when you're putting in to transport athletes or events, gift cards to put gas in volunteer personal vehicles, vehicle purchases, stock purchases, salaries for an agency position. That is all non-allowable expense. Again, questions, feel free to contact us or email us. Right, so when you send in funds, you do a fundraiser or you've got funds to deposit to pay, the example of you have a fundraiser and you've included your taxable form. In addition to that is the agency deposit, right? First of all, the headquarters office provides agencies with the following items as it relates to agent deposits and the means to properly process an agency deposit. The agency is responsible for storing the checks and the cash in a safe and secure location prior to depositing or sending it to SOWI for deposit. Special Olympics Wisconsin will provide each agency, and each agency has an agency deposit stamp. All right, if you do not have one, contact Teresa Rossman, Gifts Record Manager. Also, an agency deposit ticket. It's an Excel template which we provide. An agency deposit ledger that is also provided, but there's also a within your forms of duplication as well. But if you need this information, feel free to contact us. Agency sales tax summary form. Again, an Excel template is provided to you. And finally, we provide each agency some prepaid envelopes for finance. That is, when you have funds or for deposit, put them in these envelopes, these prepaid envelopes, and send them in. It goes directly to our accounts or our gift records manager for deposit. Now, if you run out of these and you need more, feel free to contact Teresa Rossman, Gifts Records Manager, if more envelopes are needed. But also remember, these are for financial agency deposits only. Do not put in athlete medical information or forms or information for other departments. For Special Olympics Wisconsin, this is for agents deposits only. All right. If you include the other stuff, you run the risk of it being rerouted or lost in rerouting as it gets shifted around and such. And so utilize these only for what they are to assist you in the deposit of your agency funds. All right. So some of the must-dos regarding the, if I go back, sorry, from the agency deposit ticket, again, you submit them to the state headquarters. You can see the date of that, how much is being deposited. So if you've got 3 checks, here's the check. It would be, rather than 1, it'd say 3, and if there's 3, that equals 75. So it gives the total number of deposits. It's a number of checks for that. So at an event, if you get a cash, you need to convert them over, and we'll talk about this in the next slide, over to a check. So everything that we're receiving is in a check form, right? Name of the agency, submitted by, and the email address so we can do the proper follow-up. So you can see, also note that in the agency deposit, the attachments, if there's sales tax, the sales tax summary form is included in there, and that would be checked in there. If there was a bank deposit for cash deposits made at a Johnson Bank, you would that would be included in there. Now, the must-dos to prepare cash and checks for deposit. All cash must be converted to a money order or cashier's check at your local financial institution. All right. If you've got a Johnson Bank within your region, please let us know. Maybe we can see if we can make arrangements for deposits, especially for the special events cash, to help speed up the process. Also, as I had mentioned earlier, you are given an agency stamp. The stamp is on the back, the middle of the back of the check. You stamp that. Again, do not do this in the endorsement area. On the back, middle of the check, coded, an account number, and such, all just kind of, and we will go through additional training if required, if you need further clarification as to the stamp. Again, it is also outlined in your agency manager handbook. Account number, where it should be applied to, reference, any additional information you wish to record about the donation. Again, that portion is optional. Insert the agency deposit ticket and checks, again, no cash, into the postage page envelope and mail. This should be dropped in a U.S. mail postal box or post office, not in the residential roadside mailboxes. It just is, and we recommend this with any checks and such. Anyway, it's just from a safety, liability, prevention of it being accidentally taken, stolen, lost, that type of thing. So the headquarters office will receive your agent deposits and we will verify deposit totals. All forms must be completed and included with the deposit. Again, sales tax summary forms, et cetera, right? The deposit date will be approximately 3 to 5 business days from the date we received it. So if you send it on a Tuesday, we're not going to necessarily get it on a Wednesday. We may get it on Thursday. Once we did that, process it, it could be 3 to 5 days after that. And please remember, this excludes holidays, weekends, and staff vacations, which we notify agency managers via email. Headquarters office will receive a deposit confirmation from the Johnson Bank after completing this, and then we will email it to the contact's email listed on deposit check. That, as you see here, deposit of confirmation. So you will realize at that point that, and this should match what you had deposited. If it does not, you need to notify us with that. So these are the basic information we get a lot of calls on. We have issues on, little concerns with that, trying to make it as easy as possible. Again, we are always open to any questions regarding that. The key is doing things in a timely manner. The invoice approval form, sending that in a timely manner, having the correct information and having it completely filled out is critical in processing in a timely manner. In addition to the sales form, sales tax form, again, this is a Department of Revenue requirement, not a Special Olympics Wisconsin requirement. So we are following the laws and the rules put upon us by the U.S. government. So please understand that, but please remember, you charge fees, that is taxable. When you sell something, that is taxable, all right? Figure that into the cost of the items. But when you deposit those funds from that event, all right, that the sales tax forms must be included in that. Well, I thank you for your time. Hopefully this provides a little bit more clarification and understanding and why it is required and what needs to be done. Again, this information is within the Agency Manager Handbook, which can be found on the SOWI website. This presentation will also be loaded there under the Agency Manager section of the website. Thank you all and have a good day.